Hey everyone, I am going to demonstrate using value to create a gradient only by using mark and controlling my pressure. So absolutely no smudging. So for my materials, I have a pencil sharpener, I have a 4B and a 2B graphite pencil, and I have a couple different erasers. Now I've already marked out a rectangle on my sketch pad that I'm going to create the gradient within. So I'm going to start with a 2B since it's a little lighter than my 4B, and I will go in with the 4B at the end to get some of those darker values. Now the trick to creating value without smudging is to, number one, be patient. Use small marks, light pressure, and just layer and build. So I use these little round marks because I find that they sort of blend together more than if I was going like straight up and down or straight across. And I'm using really light pressure. This is going to be my dark end, but you can see it's not very dark right now. I'm using really, really light pressure and light marks to fill the space. I also want to make sure my pencil isn't too sharp. A really sharp pencil is going to create lines, and we want to sort of blend out those lines. So a slightly duller pencil is best. And you can always, if the pencil's too sharp on an end, go to a scrap area and sort of run it down to get a flatter, softer edge. So now that I'm getting toward my lighter area of my value scale, I really want to lighten up my pressure, which is easier to do when you start darker and then figure out how much pressure you need to let up on to get your lighter values toward the end. Because I want the end of the strip to be white. Okay, so that is my first initial layer. So now I'm going to go back over it, using a little more pressure and getting darker in the dark side of my value scale. Now at this point, if your hand is going to be resting over an area you've already applied graphite to, you might want a cover sheet so that you don't just smear your hand through your drawing. And I'm using a piece of wax paper for my cover sheet. And now that I'm getting toward the end, again, I want to sort of lighten my pressure. I do want to go back over it to help smooth out these lines and marks underneath, but I don't want it to get too dark. Okay, now for my third layer, I'm going to switch to the 4B, which is a softer graphite, which is going to give me a darker value. And you can see immediately, I'm not using that much more pressure, and you can see how much darker the 4B is than the 2B. And if you make any little mistake, like I accidentally pressed a little hard there and got an actual little line I don't want, I'm just going to take my eraser, light pressure, and get rid of that and go back over it. There we go. Like it never happened. Now, a little earlier on than before, I want to really lighten my pressure with this one because this is the darker graphite, and I want to keep all my lighter values down at this end. So I might stop on that one about there. Okay, so already you can see a clear gradient from dark to light. The dark isn't extremely dark because we are using graphite, and graphite is gray, not black. But if I wanted to get it a little darker, I do have an 8B. Ideally, I would probably want to go up to a 6B, but I don't have a 6B with me. I have this 8, which is extremely dark, so I'm going to start with it really lightly and sort of see how this goes, because I don't want it to get too black and too different from the rest of the drawing, or the rest of the value scale. So I'm going to use really light pressure on this one because it is very dark. In fact, the 8B is so dark here, it almost looks like charcoal. And now I'm just sort of finishing it up, trying to smooth out any area that seems like it too sharply transitions from one value to another, trying to keep this gradient as smooth as I can. And I'm going to go back in with the 4Bs, just try to smooth out a little bit more some of these darker areas without worrying about getting too dark with that 8B. And just tapping with my eraser can lighten up certain areas that I think got a little dark without erasing it down to the white of the page. Okay, so there I have a pretty general gradation of value from dark to light using graphite. Absolutely no smudging. All done through controlling the pressure that I'm applying to the tool, through controlling my mark making, and through layering. Now at this point, if this was an actual form, you might want to go in and clean up your edges with a detail eraser to keep things nice and sharp. But for something like a rectangle value scale exercise, that's probably not necessary.